Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner. I have a legitimate British comics legend with me right here, right now, Mr. Bryan Talbot, the
Hi,
creator of the
Andrew.
poster I had on my wall throughout all of my student years, mate. I think we talked about this once in the past,
Yeah,
but that great image of Luther wrapped in the flag, that
right.
adorned every college room I ever had, Bryan.
Great. Yeah, it's on display at the moment in the Cartoon Museum exhibition.
Wonderful.
I think it's one of the things there.
Absolutely wonderful. I've got to go and see that in the flesh. Actually, if
Mm.
it's your original, I really want to see that.
Oh,
Have you?
it's not the original. I think that was
Right.
sold a long time ago.
Oh,
But it's a
okay.
copy of the
Yeah.
poster. It's a
Oh,
big one.
lovely, lovely. Yeah, I've still got mine. It's lurking around somewhere, in a loft or something.
Mm.
Bryan, how have you been, mate?
Been very busy actually. I seem to be working on about 4 books at once at the moment. It's ludicrous. Because I'm spending most of the time drawing Mary's next book,
Yes.
which is called Armed with Madness, which is a great title, I think. It's a biography of the surrealist artist Leonora Carrington.
Wonderful.
And I'm about over 3/4 of the way through that. I'm still doing bits and pieces on the new Arkwright, but because the announcement in the first week it was going back to print, which is good news. So I've been having to go proofread. They've done a new set of proofs, remade the the files they're using for it, because I was critical on the quality of the printing of the first one. So I've got a big pile of proofs I'm going through minutely. I'm also still proofreading this biography that's come out. I mean, the Zoop campaign is on at the moment. It's a crowdfunding campaign. It's called Bryan Talbot, Father of the British Graphic Novel.
Yeah. Well, and that is it. That is in no way an exaggeration. That's an apt title if ever I heard one.
But I was approached by this academic, this Lebanese academic, who a big fan of my work, said, "Can I write a biography?" And I was very flattered, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? But it became very apparent after a week or two that there was whole chunks of my life he didn't know anything about. He couldn't get from articles or interviews or anything like that. A little personal details and private history. So I ended up, first he was interviewing me about things, and then I said, look, it'd be easier if I actually just wrote wrote these bits.
Yeah.
So I've sort of co-written it with him, and we're still doing the final proofreading, and I've got a list of hundreds of typos and italics, and this is after loads of other people have proofread it, and I've proofread it at least twice, and I'm still finding things. It's terrible. The typos are sneaking. And I'm also I'm writing. I've finished writing it. I'm sort of polishing it at the moment. The script for the book I want to do next, which is going to be a Granville prequel.
Brilliant. I mean, it's amazing that you'd get as busy. I mean, laudable and amazing that you're as busy as you are right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm not anywhere else, I work 7 days a week anyway. So it's something I've done for years.
And the biography you were mentioning, by the way, the of yourself, the crowdfunding link is in the links attached to our conversation below.
Great.
As are the links to forbiddenplanet.com and the Legend of Luther Arkwright. So for those who are watching who are unfamiliar with where this new volume takes Luther, could you tell me a bit about it, please, mate?
Well, it's set 53, I think, 53 years later after the other one. But of course, Arkwright, being a homo novus, he looks no different. So he's sort of practically immortal. But basically, he's facing the threat to humanity that only he can stop by a more evolved being than he is, who's far more powerful. So, his only edge is his experience, his ability to think fast.
Yeah. Where when you flip back to the genesis of Luther Arkwright, where did it all come from in the first place? What part of you did it spring out of?
Well, I've been wanting to do what we now call a graphic novel since the late 60s, when I came across this article in an American horror mag. In the news section, it was saying that Poul Anderson's The Broken Sword fantasy novel was going to be, there's going to be a comic version of it. And I thought, what a fantastic idea, you know, a whole novel in comic form. I couldn't, and I immediately started trying to plot my own one out. Nothing ever came of that, but I had it in the back of my mind, this idea of a comic novel. And then in 1976, when I was doing underground comics, I was asked to do a strip for Mixed Bunch, which was one of the Brainstorm comics. And I've been wanting to try a strip in line and watercolor wash, a bit like Richard Corbin style.
Yeah.
I liked his comics at the time, and it was just I used this strip as an excuse to do that. And for the character, I sort of loosely based him on the sort of Jerry Cornelius character of Michael Moorcock.
Yeah.
And it was a spoof. It was a silly story, extremely silly story. But he was this person who could go between parallel worlds. And it was only after that I started thinking, well, perhaps this could be the vehicle for this, you know, an intelligent science fiction story. So I then developed the character away from the Cornelius character and made him his own character, his own situation. And Mike Moorcock agrees, because I've had conversations with Mike about this. So, and he even wrote the introduction to the first collected book of Luther Arkwright when it came out.
Yeah, I know he's a fan. Mike Moorcock's a mutual friend and is on this show quite a lot, actually.
All right.
Because one of the things we do at Titan is we publish the library of all his graphic novel adaptations.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So yeah, so we've published a whole bunch of them in the last couple of years. But you know, he's always a very interesting guy to talk to, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I know
for a bit, man.
But I know he's a big fan of your. The thing I love about your work, mate, is not just the thought behind it, but it's that you just have such a style that is so uniquely you, unmistakably. You know, I mean, I think there's nothing generic about what you do. It's imbued with this unique sense of personality. What's your process these days for creating the art that you create?
For drawing,
yeah,
I've never sort of had a formula, really. I don't know. It's always a big struggle, drawing is. I mean, I always find it hard to draw. I mean, the writing is the enjoyable bit for me.
Yeah.
Every day I go to the drawing board, and I'm not kidding. It takes me about an hour or so, at least, before it starts flowing. You know, the first hour or so, every day, it's a struggle. And I'm going, oh, that's wrong, rubbing it out, drawing it again. And after about 2 or 3 hours, and I'm really in the flow of it, and things just appear, which is great. But art's the sort of 99% perspiration, you know, after the 1% inspiration of the script.
That's so interesting to me that the script is the easy part for you, because I edit manuscripts and I often find it, you know, quite a kind of, you know, bruising process, you know, to actually sit, you know, it's like with any kind of creative endeavor, you sit down and look at that blank page, and you sit down and look at, for me, you know, digging into the text is often quite difficult. It's very interesting for you that's the easy part of the process.
Yeah, well, I never sit down with a blank sheet of paper. I always bring ideas to it.
Yeah,
I don't even start writing till I've got a sense of the overall thing of it.
Yeah.
And the structure. I always spend a lot of time on the structure of the graphic novels. I mean, I go through draft after draft of the structure till scene by scene till the rock solid, you know. Because things have to be foreshadowed, things have to be, you know, there has to be light and shade, there has to be, you know, contrast between different sections, and it all has to build up. I love working on the structure. That's real fun.
Yeah, we were talking off camera about the nature of this current narrative. How much of a reflection is it of some of the things that we are seeing, you know, in society now, you know, in real time?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing at the moment is the rise of the far right all over the world, and it's partly a reaction to that, which is it always has been. I mean, the very first Arkwright was produced against the background of the rise of far right in the late 70s and early 80s, with Thatcher coming to power and the National Front marching on the street. And at the time, I was actually doing illustrations for the local branch of the Anti-Nazi League, and so that's why it's a sort of anti-fascist book. And this is as well. This is anti-fascist, anti-nationalistic, preaching tolerance, basically.
Yeah. Quite right too. I mean, I really find it's really rather dismaying that. Well, I mean, that's an understatement that we're in the place that we are now, because there were times when I felt throughout the course of my life, we're making real progress, in terms of, against far right extremism, and the fact that it's returned like a boomerang in the way that it has. I think any kind of creative endeavor that supports an alternate narrative is very important.
It'll get worse as well. The more people reduced to poverty, it's fuels anger, it fuels crime, it fuels the rise of the right wing. So Hitler came to power in the 30s. It's they use whatever immigrants as scapegoats or whoever they want, to blame all the ills of society on them. It's horrible to see history repeating itself.
No, it really is. And before we wind up, Bryan, is there anything you're particularly reading and enjoying at the moment yourself?
I'm just working at the moment, actually. I've finished a Michel Bussi, Michel Bussi, French writer, really, of short stories who I've just recently discovered.
Yeah,
quite nice. I think he's a very popular sort of author in France, from what I gather.
Oh, that's interesting. And are they short stories? Are they novels?
Yes, this was a collection of short stories, but he does write novels.
I'll include a link in our conversation to that. Well, I think the Legend of Luther Arkwright is another like triumph for the characters. Perfect companion to your two previous graphic novels, and I'm so pleased to see you're so busy and so productive at this moment in time, like you always have been. But it's great. Long may it continue, mate.
Cheers. Hope so.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Bryan. You take care of yourself.
Cheers, Andrew.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
Bye.
Bye. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.